You're on, Susan.
All right, awesome. Thank you everybody for coming tonight on this Sunday evening. You are you're so important to what we're all working on here. So thank you for giving of your time and to this cause and purpose. Really, really appreciate it. So you'll see here, Dental Codology Consortium Oral Cancer Work Group for 2020. So we will be submitting our paperwork in 2019, this year. It will be heard at CMC in 2020 and then we're going to be positive, become code in 2021. And one thing I want to really point out here, so it says oral cancer work group, but what we really are headed towards with this is it's not just oral cancer, it's head and neck, oropharyngeal cancer, because we're not just looking at the oral cavity, which is the anterior portion of the mouth. We are screening extraorally the head and neck, looking at the face, the skin, the scalp, the hairline, palpating those lymph nodes. Yes, that anterior portion, but also evaluating the oropharynx. So that's why I've got down on there, head and neck, oropharyngeal, oral and oropharyngeal. And Patty is a great mentor, as we all know. And I am learning she is mentoring me on how to conduct these meetings. So I'm going to do a little cheat sheet tonight, and I'm going to have my slides up on the side here like this, because I'm learning about this, just like we all are. So dental codology, we are charting our future, your future, and Patty's done amazing, amazing things. And thank you, Patty, for all of this. You know, I didn't learn about coding in dental hygiene school. I don't know about the rest of you, but I didn't learn anything about it. It's like, okay, here's the code. And that's all you learn. Here's the code. So we're learning a great deal here, and we're building for our success. Success of us now and those to come behind us. So the big thing is questions. If you have questions, ask. And Patty has stressed that hugely. Don't be embarrassed to ask. If there's a question, there's no dumb question. All questions are good. We all learn from everybody's questions. So, and if I don't have the answer, I will go to the mentors and find it out. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And that's what they do. What they do is they direct us, but they're not there to babysit us and take care of us. So us here in our group, we're going to have responsibilities and timelines and all of these things that we need to do. So they're there to answer our questions and guide us along, but not to hold our hands and tell us to keep us on task. So liaison and group leaders, these are the groups that we have going on. We have implant maintenance and biofilm management, and that group liaison or leaders, we're calling them Melissa Obratka. Remove provider language is Patty Resky. More prophy codes, Tasha Bates. Oral cancer evaluation, myself. And use of non-therapeutic products and drugs is Jamie Collins. So those are the other different groups going on. Whoa. So I see Denise has joined us.
Yes, I am here.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome, Denise. So The big emphasis here is we can do anything, you can do anything, but not everything. We can't do this big job alone. So don't be a cowgirl out there. And I get this. I'm a cowgirl. That was me. I used to run barrels on my dad's roping horse. And you're out there all alone, putting it on your horse, all by yourself, getting it all done. But that's not what this is about. We are a team. So teamwork. We are here and we're all learning together. You know, this is my first meeting that I'm running online, and Patty's here mentoring me, coaching me along, and that's what we're all here for, is to do this together. It takes a team, and we know that as hygienists, we know it takes a teamwork to get things done. So I just, again, thank you for stepping up. You're a mover and shaker. That's why you're here. Thank you for stepping up and volunteering your time, your valuable expertise. It's wanted, so thank you. So this is our group, oral cancer evaluation. So again, even though it says oral cancer evaluation, it's head and neck, oropharyngeal cancer. That's what we're going for. It's not just oral. So this is our group. So I'm Susan. Noelle and Patty are our mentors. And so what I'd like to do right now is, for those of us that are here, is go one at a time and introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your history, your background, and why you want to be on this group. So who would like to start? Who would like to go first?
I will. This is Lucy. Lucy
Okay.
Conn.
Thank you, Lucy. Go for it.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
I've been practicing 37 years. I'm at the peak of my career. No, I'm kidding. I just have always felt that I work part-time in general practice right now, and I'm also a clinical rep for Young Dental. And one of the most important functions I do for every patient is my oral cancer screenings, head and neck exams. I just feel it's so important. I've referred a lot of people things for, things that something's on somebody's ear, and it's been something, and it just makes you feel like you're doing the right thing. I just feel that it's one of the biggest services we can provide, and I think with the technology, we need more time to provide that service. And I just think this is important to get the recognition for what we do. So that's me.
Awesome. Absolutely. Love that. Thank you, Lucy. Who wants to go next? Kim? Kim? Is Kim there?
Hello?
Looks like everybody's.
Yeah, there's Kim.
Hi, Kim. Yeah, now
Sorry,
Awesome.
I'm having computer issues, but yeah, I like Lucy. I've been practicing for like 35 years. About 2 years ago or so, I just, a lot of times I just temp hygiene. And the thing about the oral cancer thing is when you're temping, I said, you wouldn't believe how it isn't utilized, how it isn't done. And sometimes people look at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, and you got to kind of go through that whole thing. So I agree with Lucy. It's extremely important. And in my career, having caught a couple saves here and there where patients have come back to, I see a lot of enlarged thyroids lately, stuff like that, things that people just they just have no idea. So, like I said, I think it's very important, and and that's why I'm here. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
And then Susan, this is Denise. I'd like to say something.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Go ahead, Denise.
So last week, I actually did a presentation. It was called Wine, Women, and Wellness. And what that presentation was really about, you get all these women in one local area with all their businesses and what they do and what they strive for. And they're all about the health of people. How can we take our sick care and really give health care? Because we always talk about our society being more of a sick society rather than everybody being healthy. So we had some sponsors and we had all these different things. So I was able to give a presentation. And part of that presentation was, really bringing out what happens when you go to your dental visits. What do you expect to have? And a lot of what the conversation that I made for everyone, they were floored because none of the dental offices are doing what I had mentioned was just even the basic standard of care. And when we got into oral cancer screening, I'm like, guys, listen, I carry my oral ID, oral cancer screening device in my purse with a pair of glasses everywhere I go, and I will screen anyone, anywhere, anytime. And, at the end of it, I was actually screening the women that were sitting in this room because they were blown away that their dental office has never even done that. And if they did, they said they never even mentioned it. Yeah, sometimes they pull my tongue, sometimes they look at things, but they never say anything of what they're doing. And I said, you know what, when they do that, stop them and say, are you doing an oral cancer screening? And what more can you tell me about what you're doing to me today? Because I really want to know, what are you finding? Do I swallow correctly? Do I have symmetry on my face? Do I have any abnormalities anywhere inside of my mouth? They were all blown away. They thought it was an incredible conversation because they don't know what they don't know. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to share with them what should be happening. And I actually brought out, I said, and if your doctors come in and you're not getting the gold standard of just even looking and feeling, I said, and they're charging out for what we call a quote, I had to say it to them, an exam fee, even though it's really not an exam, it's more your evaluation. And they didn't understand that, but that's beside the point. I said, if they're charging that out and they're not giving you an oral cancer screening, that can be considered as fraud, because that's part of what is the responsibility of that dental practice to do for you. And if they're not screening you, who is? Who is looking? No one. Okay, sorry, I'm off my soapbox. Yeah. I was so frustrated sitting there in the midst of 30 people and having maybe two of them say, yeah, my office has done that. But the rest of them are like, no, they don't take a blood pressure. They don't do an oral cancer screening. They don't check my gum tissue. They don't tell me if I have recession. They don't tell me if I have bleeding. And I was just floored. And it was a topic that was incredible for me to share with them, because now guess where they go? Guess where they're going back? They're going back to their dental office. Well, excuse me, can you take my blood pressure today? Oh, you're not doing an oral cancer screening? Well, why? That's part of your responsibility. Yeah. So I've prompted them with questions to ask.
Perfect.
Okay, all done.
Awesome.
Can I ask a point of clarification? Are you passionate about this by any chance, Denise?
Oh God, no. Seriously? No, not at all. And that's what they told me shined through.
I'm not either, Denise. So you.
No, so I tell you, when we were in Hawaii together that time, no, we're not passionate about anything we do. No.
No.
Angela is also here.
Yeah.
Yes. I actually, right now, I work for a nonprofit where I'm a dental educator, and I go to senior centers and daily living centers, and I do oral cancer screening and talk about the nonprofit where we get dental care for seniors that are on the poverty level. And so it doesn't directly, I don't have insurance codes I need to deal with because nobody's paying for it. We're a United Way agency. But I know just the awareness of having a code, unfortunately, bumps it up to a level where it means something to people, even though it should every day. We had a great, I went to OU, Oklahoma University. We had a great pathology department clear back in the 70s. And I think, and eventually the pathologist was the dean of the school, so it got even more attention doing head and neck exams. And then I also was a rep examiner for 15 years where I was examining on head and neck exams. And there was a time where we didn't even do it because they said it was too subjective how we were checking things out. And that went a year or two before they put it back in to be something that absolutely needed to be tested because they weren't going to learn it if they weren't going to be tested on it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela. So, Patty, do you want to tell us about you?
No, I think you should tell you. Let's hear about you. Nobody knows about me.
Well,
I'm Susan
okay. Cotton. I've been
yeah, go ahead.
I've been a dental hygienist here in. Okay, Susan Cotton. I've been a dental hygienist here in Colorado for about 25 years, and yeah, I'm passionate about this topic too, and pretty much so. I had what turned my trajectory was a patient about 11, 12 years ago, a female patient that came into our office who had been previously diagnosed with HPV, oropharyngeal cancer. And at that time, we were hearing minimal about it. And I thought, wow, what is this? I need to know about it. And the more I learned, the more I learned people didn't know and weren't doing it. And, you know, I was, to Denise's point, right before this meeting, I was at a get-together in my neighborhood, a cookout. And I said, you know, I'm going to have to leave early. I have a meeting. Oh, well, what's the meeting? And so I got to tell them all about this. And they said, same thing, Denise, really? They don't do that at my dental office. Once in a while, they pull out my tongue. Really, HPV? Nobody's told me about that. Or what is that? And, you know, the public just isn't educated. And we know this screening, this evaluation is not being done all the time. I think all of us here are a lot on the same page. The reason why we're here and a part of this group. So I think I'm so excited about this, so excited. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
And for me,
So
it's again, most all of you already know me and know this is something I presented on for a bunch of years. But the way that all got started for me was that back in the very, very early part of this century, when the oral CDX test first came out, I was using it. Head and neck oral cancer screening was already very much part of my routine. And when oral CDX came out, I had both my sister as well as the doctor, the uncle of the doctor I was working with at the time, that showed these small lesions. Now, my sister, from what I understood of risk assessment, what I understood, really what I even understood of a whole bunch of anything, at that point, I would tell you she was very low risk. The uncle, post-50, male, smoker, drinker. Okay, so we did the brush biopsy test. And they came back as negative for the uncle and questionable for my sister, that we need to do more testing. So what did I do? I behaved like most everybody else does. Oh no, they must have mixed up the test. It must be wrong. Because when it comes to the big C, everybody wants to deny. And my sister, I was able to talk to the lab, and within 2 hours, we had her into an oral surgeon. And that's what really struck me as unfair. Unfair in what way? Mm-hmm. Well, in the way that because she is somebody in the profession, she got different care than most everybody else gets. And that's what's unfair. Because most people aren't even getting the initial evaluation, let alone any adjunctive testing, let alone the appropriate follow-up. I think all of us here know the problems, but that's what fired my passion back then for that particular. Now, what I've learned about risk assessment, well, I carry the gene for colon cancer. We have, I mean, there's so many factors that we have, but I didn't even understand risk assessment at that point. And even in this in this journey that we're going to take here together to try and figure out about getting a code for this specific thing. That's something I think we need to really look at, because in other parts of dentistry, you know, if somebody gives you at risk for caries infection and have a cavitation, okay, or they're at risk for periodontal, but boy, having a risk for oral cancer, I see this as a lot bigger issue than anything else in oral health. It is the most important issue when it comes to oral health.
Yeah.
Okay, like Denise, I'll get off my soapbox. We're all our soapbox, because this is, that's why we're all on this committee.
Yep, and it's reaching epidemic numbers, and the percent of cases of unknown etiology are on the rise, and it's most predominant in women under 40 and under. That's some of the newest research that's out. So yeah, it's,
Hey, Susan.
Yeah.
It's Denise. I have a
Go ahead.
question. There's so much controversy right now over the vaccine. Where should we be leaning? Because, you know, I'm panicked about it, but I don't want to, as a professional, give somebody one way or the other, because there's negative and there's positive. How do we look at this?
Right. So, you know, so I talked to Brian Hill a lot with OCF, because he knows all the top researchers and he talks to them all the time. And they're really, at this point, there have been no deaths or severe adverse reactions to this medication. Yes, people report, but then it's investigated, and there really are no severe reactions and no deaths to this medication. So this is, and I talk about this in my course. So I feel it is our responsibility to provide the knowledge and the information and educate our patients, no matter what our belief is. And we don't even have to let our patients know how we feel about it one way or the other unless they ask. And if we then want to share that. But I think it is our responsibility to provide them the information, the correct information, so they can then do the further investigation and, you know, provide them the resources and where to go to investigate, the CDC, MD Anderson, all of these different places to go, so they can look at it themselves, because what they're hearing on the internet and what they're hearing on, you know, from celebrities isn't always necessarily the truth. We know that. So that's my take on the vaccination. My grandkid, my oldest granddaughter, has received it. I am pro-vaccination. My son-in-law is a medical doctor. He was trained at the Mayo Clinic for his residency and fellowship. He is pro-vaccine, but that's how we feel about it. So, and I know it's very controversial. It's almost like talking about politics or religion, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my stance, that, you know, that we be, and now they've approved it for males and females up to age 45. Does it mean insurance is going to pay for it? No, to that age, no, but it's been approved up to age 45.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you,
Okay.
Susan. I'm going to mentor here.
All right.
We've got to quit saying what insurance covers or doesn't cover. What the hell is that got to do with it? You know what? I know I'm saying it strong, but this is from us forward. This is really, really critical for all of us to get out of that habit. Get out of that habit of bringing in insurance. Nobody asked, nobody said, and this is one of the issues that we have in the arena that we're playing in here, okay? We start bringing in insurance when you have no factual information on it. We have no reason to discuss it, and what happens is we start mixing up diagnosis with insurance. And that's when we mess up. Now, obviously,
Yes.
this committee is all about getting another code, which is going to lead to possible payment. This is going to da-da-da. But when we start messing up and talking insurance at the same time as screening and diagnosis, we're creating some problems for ourselves. Unintentional, because we're doing this all with the best of intention, yet we do it all the time because we've been habituated to it.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem.
I think we're screwing ourselves with all of that.
Yeah.
As far as this discussion of
Thank you,
vaccines,
Patty.
and that's okay. In the text box, it's funny, and if you're insulted, if you are easily offended, you might not have watched it. But Penn and Teller does a really funny routine on vaccines, and just looking at, I mean, it's a funny routine. It's really about odds ratios. Okay. So anyway, that link, I put that link in the text that I sent to all you guys. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and one thing about, you know, there's always some, and I was given my course one time and somebody said, well, aren't there people having reactions? Yes, they are. They're not life-threatening. There's potential for reaction to everything. Everything. To drinking too much water, to receiving local anesthetic, to, you know, an antibiotic. Eating peanuts, there's potential for reaction to everything. So anyway, yeah. So we move on.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or anything else anybody wants to say while talking about stuff like that? No? Okay. All right. So thank you everybody for sharing. I'm glad to hear we're so all passionate about this. It's awesome. So for our group, our timeline for stage 1 of this process is July 14th for our initial submission ideas and possible coalition partners. So that's July 14th. But I put July 7th up there because actually we pretty much need to have it done that week before, because we're going to present it to the group the next week, July 14th. So that's our timeline. And so what are we going to work on here? Oh, I lost my slide. Sorry, guys. Oh, there we are. So before we get started, Patty is going to give us a history lesson. Go for it, Patty.
Yeah. Oh, yawn. Now, what I wanted to do, there was some historical precedence in this particular arena with head and neck oral cancer screening oral pharyngeal. And it's important before we start into our research and our discussion of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it to understand part of that from the code. Now, this is a story from the coding perspective. Back in the early part of this century, when the adjunctive technologies came out, as we know, the adjunctive technologies, the first one, as I already mentioned, was oral CDX, which now has its own separate code description, and then we have the other adjunctive technologies. When those came out, there are people at that point that felt very strongly there should be a separate CDT code for the head and neck oral cancer screening. It was a decision of the coding group at that time that a separate code does not make sense because it should be standard of care and it is a standard part of our evaluation process. And they heightened the language in all of the evaluation codes. And that's important. That's one of the things that's important for us to research and actually find that, where it says that in the codes. The thing is since that time, we have not, it really hasn't necessarily made a change. Number one, if anything, statistically, things are, if anything, like Susan said, things are on the increase with the rate, the mortality, the morbidity, all of that when it comes to this. and it's still thought of as oral cancer instead of head, neck, or pharyngeal cancer. The thing for us to consider, though, is who everybody is that has a say in this process. Codes have three very important purposes. One is certainly third-party reimbursement. And in this case, people that are the 21-member CMC Code Maintenance Committee includes, and Susan can show you this in a little bit, a bunch of people from the benefit carriers, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, as well as the various third-party reimbursement. Why would they want a separate code? This is when we look at this looking at a new code, we need to look at multiple strategies, because I think that, we can all get on our soapbox of righteous indignation, but so what? If that was the case and that was going to change people's minds, it would have, it hasn't. What is it that we can bring forward? What statistically, because see, that's the other part, that another one of the really important things that codes are for. Codes represent very important metrics. That is the watchword of everybody in the recent past, is how can we measure it? The whole idea of evidence-based decision-making, it's all about measurability and metrics. There is a third person, and I'm going to go back to Angela on this one. And Angela, this is where, within the frame of where you're working, this is where codes actually do play a part, because I would hope that there's some kind of records being kept on what you're doing, and HIPAA designates CDT as the standard code set for our records. And the reason why I emphasize it, because even within the nonprofit sector, or anytime we're doing a screening or evaluation, and that's going to really need some clarity on that within this group, is it needs to have a code attached to it, because again, it represents an important metric. So that's a little bit of a historical perspective. This is not something that hasn't already been visited by this committee. Now, what I've seen again in the Code Maintenance Committee is when they come up to something that they've talked about before, they kind of get attitudes. They don't like when something comes up about laser. But then they didn't like when something came up about what eventually became the D4346 code either, because they had voted it down over and over and over again. When we bring something forward, though, we really need to have important statistics and changes, or something, what has happened in the more recent past since the last time they discussed it, in order to begin to create a convincing argument. In addition, we need to have other coalitions, and within the committee and also outside of the committee, that might want to sign on to support this. That's why what Susan was talking about with our presentation for this group on the 14th, that's just our preliminary. Stage one, and what we're going to do here in the next couple of weeks, is just stage one, in that we're not going to have a code written. We're not going to have, this is what we want to have. We have to have all pieces and parts of the submission. One of the things that we've learned on the DCC over the last couple of years is when we have them done and then, hey, we look at this, we got more of a door shoved in our face. What happens, and what we're looking to do in a different way this year, is to say, hey, this is the preliminary place that we've gone already. We know you, AGD, would be very interested, could be very interested in this as general dentists. Perhaps you would like to sign on with us on this. Or we're saying that this is being presented by the DCC and the Oral Cancer Foundation, or the blobbity-bob-blob, okay? That's what I'm talking about with creating, looking at the coalitions, and with stage one. I'm going to give this back to Susan, but I'm also going to let you know that I am only here for this time, and then I'm the, I don't know if I can call myself the super mentor, but I'm here because Noelle Paschke, who is the mentor for this group, is on vacation. And so I won't be on every one of these meetings, because I think sometimes you guys don't talk as much when I'm around. So I'm going to shut up now, and you guys take it from here. I think I covered everything we talked about, didn't I, Susan?
Yeah, you did. Thanks, Patty.
Okay.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So awesome. So moving forward from what Patty said, there's the history part of it. This is what we've come up with, that we need to break our little group into groups, smaller groups, to investigate these areas. So our resources and potential partners, like Patty was saying, to bring them on initially to partner with us. And then we need people to work on looking at statistics and changes in head and neck, oropharyngeal cancer research, all of that, since about 2001, when that other code was first introduced. And then the other thing is we need people to go into the CDT and look at those evaluation codes and how they are stated, how they read, and what the changes are, you know, when when they were enhanced, quote, enhanced, when they didn't want the new code, how were those enhanced? What does all of that say? So for myself, what I've decided to do, because I speak on this and have for quite a few years, I know resources and potential partners. I know statistics and changes. So I'm going to join the group of the evaluation codes in the CDT, because that's where I'm weakest. You know, I'm new to this DCC that Patty's got, and I love it, and I want to learn more about it. So I'm going to be a part of that group. So who do you guys want to look at these? What do you want to be a part of? Which part of it do you want to do?
Do I not be able, we can't hear their
Denise?
hands being raised, I guess, Susan.
Susan, I think I'd like to be
Denise?
more part of the statistical changes.
Okay, great.
This is Angela. I would do the potential partners and resources.
Can you tell me, like, with the statistic changes, where would we be, like, how would we be finding that information?
For me, Denise, this
Well-
is Denise. For me, I think I would be talking to, like, for instance, Oral ID, Velscope, talking to Brian Hill at the Oral Cancer Foundation, finding out exactly what they're noticing to find these statistical changes, because it is rising. It's not like the rest of the cancers that are declining. This is one cancer that's, if it's going to be caught, it's being caught in a later stage, at least by 63%. So I think that's the first source that I would hit, would be somebody, or even looking at the newer presentations from the Oral ID and the Velscope and the Identify folks right now, and Brian Hill at the Oral Cancer Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to recommend some other sources too, like MD Anderson, the CDC, a lot of different places like that. They've got a lot of statistics and a lot of information on that, and research. You know, go to WebMD and those different places to look at
Yes.
sources.
Okay. I could do that.
And,
This is Lucy.
and is that Lucy?
Yeah, I could do that.
And the other thing I'm going to,
the statistics. No, under the statistics.
oh, you're going to do,
yeah.
sorry.
That's okay.
Lucy, I think you and I, then we could really focus on having some conversations as to which arenas we would like to tackle amongst each other,
Sure.
and kind of split that up between us. Maybe we can have a conversation sometime coming up this week, so that we can start really compiling some of that data.
Yep, that sounds good.
Wonderful.
And so here, that's great, you guys. So here's what I'm going to say about this. So it says oral cancer groups. Okay, so remember, it's the head and neck oropharyngeal cancer. So when you're looking at statistics and changes, we are evaluating extraorally. We're looking at the skin, the nose, the ears, the hairline, the part. You know, we're lifting up the hair, looking at the hairline on the back of the neck. So think about where we're going to go for that. And one thing that I am I'm not an oral cancer, I'm a skin cancer survivor. I've had 3 major skin cancer surgeries on my nose. And that is part of our head and neck oropharyngeal evaluation, is looking at the abnormalities on the nose and the ears. So when you're looking at those statistics and changes, look in that direction too. Kind of
Susan, can I
think
also bring out something else that has been kind of plaguing me, you know, seeing a lot of information these days that the one actress, Marsha Cross, could have
Yes.
gotten her cancer, her anal cancer, through the HPV throat cancer from her husband. I think that is also a statistic that we need to bring in, because it's not just staying in one place. It looks like it's moving into other locations as well.
Well, how that, from all the research I've done and talking to Brian Hill, how that happens is, number one, it's anal sex, but not always. So it's not moving from one area to another. But for women, when we're engaged in intercourse with a man, if he has HPV and it's on his genitalia, think about it. Where's the woman being exposed in that aggressive sex act? It's reaching down into her anal area. So it's, yeah. In fact, I want to tell you a story while we're on this. And I touched on it briefly with Patty. I had my physical this past week, and we know HPV, 80% of Americans will be diagnosed with some form of HPV in their lifetime. And I have in the past. I've actually tested positive for HPV-16 vaginally. And so reading about Marsha Cross, I told my primary care physician, I want an anal exam. And she would not do it. She declined. And
What?
I said, this is why I want it. Yeah. I said, this is why I want it. And gave her what I know. And from some of the research that I've read, there's potential, doesn't mean it's happening. They're just looking at it for self-inoculation by the woman, from vaginal to anal. No real research on that yet, but they're looking at it. Anyway, so yeah, my primary care declined to do an anal exam on me. So I'm looking for a new primary care physician, because.
So since they declined that, they didn't give you any list of people that they knew that could comply with what you were asking?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, this is what we're dealing with. So anyway, I don't know. I just felt I needed to share that, but anyway, it's. But our primary care
Maybe you should come out to Florida. They look at you from the rooter to the tutor and check it all.
Well, then I need to go to Florida.
Come on and visit, Susan.
What? What'd you
Come on
say,
and
Denise?
visit. Come on and visit.
Okay, I will. Okay, so Angela, what would you like to be a part of?
The potential partners resources. That's a good one.
Okay. Okay, do I have everybody's names spelled correctly? Kim. What about Kim?
Really, wherever you guys need me. If you need me to do resources, because you guys are, it doesn't really matter. I can do either.
Do you want to do resources with Angela?
Sure, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Kim. All right. Okay, we've got that. So for next week, start working on this, and during the week, and bring what you found back to our meeting, okay? And then do you have any input on that, Patty? Anything else you're going to say about this?
No, move forward with how they're going to save it in the Dropbox and all that stuff.
Okay.
Because it's
Patty's
working on it, but
send
we
you,
need to have a central place where we keep it.
yeah, and we'll get to that. So Patty will be sending you a link to Dropbox, and that's where we're going to keep everything. And pretty soon coming up, that'll show where it will all be. So when we do submit everything, this form on the upper left-hand side here is the one that we'll be submitting with ourselves and our coalition partners. So that's what we'll be working towards. And I love this. And for, full disclosure here, these are not my PowerPoint slides. They are Patty's awesome PowerPoint slides. I added a few, but.
Oh, stop it.
He does. I mean, who does better? Who does better than you? I mean, come on. So, and I love this. We are all human becoming. We are all human becomings, and we are all learning in this. There's, just so much to learn. And Patty's our mentor, and Noelle's our mentor. So just remember, so important, you have a question, ask me a question, and that's the way you want it, right, Patty? Come to me, and if I can't answer it, I'm going to go to you or Noelle.
That's right, or Noelle, right. You guys can all ask me directly. Yeah. I think I know all of you anyway, so. But again, we're trying to set up a structure here that within this group, okay? Because again, I can't get to it all, plus, but part of the reason Susan stepped up is her expertise, is her knowledge and her ability to lead. So, yeah, I think that the way you said that is absolutely the best.
Okay.
This is Angela.
All
I have
right.
a question. What's the difference between resources and parts?
Resources and potential partners, kind of the same thing. That's why I did a slash there. Who are our resources? What nonprofits? What, American Head and Neck Society? What resources can we go to join in with us on this? What did you say, Patty?
Sjogren's Foundation. Think about those people with dry mouth and their risk for oral cancer. That'd be another one. It's a little bit of an end around, but there's lots of different. This is where we can get our creative hats on, and this is where coalitions are huge, because I think one of the things that's also happened at the coding committee in the last couple of years is that for a long time this group kind of sat in their own little vacuum, and it's whatever they believed and whatever they wanted to do or whatever. But as it's evolved, particularly over the last 5 years, is that when people come in with codes, they're coming in with experts, they're coming in with there's even, again, this is my term, I don't know if they would consider themselves, but they're lobbyists. that basically they're coming in armed with information as well as the coalition partners. The partnerships where they see the power of that is when they do that and they submit them, and the name is also on there on the submission. Now, I'm not saying them being there is also positive, but it's that you've talked to other people, that you've brought other people into the process. I think that's really what we're talking about here with resources and potential partners. And resources also, those groups also may have some very important statistical information, and that's where these groups are all going to overlap too. And again, right now we have 5 of you are on this call, but there are 5 more members of this committee. So other people will join on with you as this moves forward.
Right. Yeah. And another, you know, as far as potential partners, the Skin Cancer Foundation, and American Academy of Dermatology. Skin cancer is the #1 cancer diagnosed in the United States. And that's really important to us when we're doing that extra oral evaluation, looking for abnormalities on the face, the nose, the ears, the part, the hairline. So those are some good resources there. And, you know, another one is nasopharyngeal cancer. That's not one that's talked about much. So just a couple ideas there. Any other questions on that, you guys? In those areas, on the groups? We're good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Patty's teaching us to fish. Not giving us the fish, but us to fish. And she taught me to fish today, let me tell you. I'm learning right there with you guys. It's all of us. We're learning and growing. And so I don't forget, after everything each of you have said about why you're here, I'm so excited about this group. We're going to make this happen. All right. So what does the CMC look like? Well, that's kind of a shot there. And there is on Dropbox, you can go and kind of look. There's a video on there where you can kind of go and look at the meeting, but it's similar to our, what's going on right now at ADHA or at our State Dental Hygiene Association meetings where we're working legislatively. There'll be microphones up there. There'll be people up at the front. That's how it's going to kind of look like. But yeah, you can go in and look at that video that's in Dropbox when you get in there. Anything else you want to say about that, Patty?
No, that really doesn't. This is the gallery part. There's me and Linda Jorgensen and Kathy. Patty Beeson's taking the video. That's why she's not there. But over here, there's 2 circles. There's the inner circle, which are the 21 voting members of the CMC, and outside of that circle are their advisory group. There's a big PowerPoint thing in the front where they put the codes and they put the information up there. But with each one of them, this microphone is open. So this is where, again, the coalition building and the testimony and et cetera is really important. But that's why it's also important that it's not just a few voices that really understand this, but multiple voices understand what's going on and the whys, because the more of us in our working groups that really understand where we are and why we're doing what we're doing, you can share it with the others within our group, but also outside our group. That's the whole idea of the learning the fish instead of just giving you the fish.
Yeah. Okay.
Put this one in the play function. No, put it in the play function so you can show them. Come on, you can do this now. You did it earlier.
I know. And
this is the resources.
all right. Okay. Is it up there?
Right now, what she's got showing you
is it up there?
You want to find out anything about CDT, this is the prime resource that you go to first. And you do it as simple as throwing it into Google and writing CDT ADA. And then what happened, now she's clicking, and now she's live on the internet. Did you see how she did that? Nice job. So click right there. Your arrow's there anyway, so click on Code Maintenance Committee. There you go. Now, click, when it comes up, go to CMC members. Make sure, there you go. Scroll down there so we can see it. This is your first resources to look at as far as coalition partners.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So these are, yeah, that's just what I was going to, these are some of the first resources to look at because they are CMC member organizations. They will be there. So these are some of the first places that we want to go.
Ones. Those are our votes right there.
Oh, they're not going to. Oh,
our votes. Those are the voting members.
They're all nasty, Patty.
Oh, they really aren't, Kim. They really aren't. And that's where, you know, you are the most positive person I know. And this is where I think making sure that we're as positive as we can be. These are people that are working there to do their very best for what they believe. Now, here's the thing is that if you look at this group especially, these are member organizations. This is why coalition building early is important. Why? Because we can't wait until right before, you know, if we don't start talking to them until November 1st after we've submitted our things, they have to have time to go back to their organizations. Why? Because whether it's AAP, Perio, or AGD, they can only, those people that are on that committee can only vote for what their membership says they want. Let me tell you how that works out for us, because everybody here is hygienist. Is right now, ADHA, House of Delegates, is voting things into policy. ADHA can only support our submissions if it's in ADHA policy. That's why we're actually a little behind the 8 ball, and we have been, and we will continue until we get caught up. But we have, like Michelle Race, actually, who is a member of this committee, came to Susan and I on Thursday and said, hey, we're submitting something on oral cancer. They actually was on adjunctive devices, although Susan and I are still confused over what they were submitting, to be honest. But the thing is what they're trying to do is get something into ADHA policy. And what happens is if it is an ADHA policy, that's one that they can be a partner on our submission. But even ADHA can't be a partner in our submission unless they have it in policy. I know that's hard to understand if you haven't been around this stuff, but this is why looking at this is so very important and understanding the timelines. But we also need to look at, if you look, here's that big part of why we also want to look at, when you're looking at resources, look for, and statistics, look for things that will convince these payers. Because we all here on this call know it's in the best interest of the payers for early detection, right? But what are the statistics behind it? Here's the thing, is you know who has the best statistics? They do. You find and use their own stuff, okay? Because they have the best statistics.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, getting this through, it's definitely, it'll help their pocket. It'll help their pocketbook. If it's caught early detection saves lives, but it costs down on medical costs. We know that. And long-term side effects of this cancer that are just ongoing and continually, we know that. And so if you look on here, there's a lot of good organizations here for us to partner with and to contact. AAOM pathology, AAOM radiology.
Angela, you said you're doing stuff in public health, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've worked the last 2.5 years with the homeless, and I can tell you, it was unusual for me to not see abnormalities at least twice a day. It was usually more like every patient. It's huge in public health. They're high risk.
Anybody that's in education,
So
we got a DIA down here. So it takes a little while to really start like diving into who these are and how this may work for us.
Yeah, and that's why we're starting early. All right. Anything else that I should
No,
show
other than
on
that's a
that,
resource
Patty?
for you guys. That's a place for you to go look. All of you have access to that. And we don't have to give you a link again. The simple thing is CDT ADA. You know what, Susan, if you don't go back to, okay, yeah, it'll run now.
Okay. I'm back. Is it up there?
Yeah, it should go back. It should run.
The way
Yeah,
it
you
should
should be able to do the next slide.
Okay. All right. And then these resources too. So the CDT 2020 isn't out yet. It's out in the fall, right, Patty?
Well, it's out if you want to pay big bucks to an outside organization. ADA won't sell it until the fall. The CDT 2019 is you can find it at bargain prices now because it's half over. I already have the spreadsheet of all the 2020 stuff. I can't send that to you wholesale. It is against the rules of my licensing. But again, you guys have a resource. So if whoever's doing looking at the actual codes, contact me. I can help you out with that.
Okay, I'll contact you.
Well, you're going to get somebody else on that group, I hope, with that. I'm your subgroup.
Yeah.
Subgroup of the subgroup.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll call Rhoda. Okay, so like Patty said earlier, it's all going to be managed through Dropbox. Everything that we find for our group, we're going to put it into Dropbox, and she'll be sending you the link for that. You will be able to add your information, but no editing or changing. And that's just so things don't get lost or anything. So we'll just be adding to our group. And in Dropbox, we'll be able to see who's a part. What?
You skipped a slide.
I'm sorry?
You skipped a slide.
Did I? Oh, yes. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. All right. So here's what's in Dropbox. So all of the different groups and the PowerPoint that Patty did for us a couple of days ago is there. And then all the information for the work groups. The CMC Live is there. You can go in and watch that. And then there's the survey questions that she had sent out to us. And so when we want to add something, then we'll go in and we'll click on oral cancer. And then you can add right there. It'll go into our group, whatever you want to add.
Is there anybody here that's not familiar with Dropbox?
I'm not super efficient, Patty, you know that.
Okay, well, there's a difference between super efficient and familiar. You've heard of it, Kim.
Okay, Patty, you know.
What sometimes people have a hard time getting their head around, Dropbox is nothing but saving it in a file, but the file's in the cloud and all of us get to see it. And the reason for that is that, you know, this idea of sending things as an attachment and who got it and who didn't get it, and this way it's a central thing. I knew, even though I was out running around this afternoon, that Susan had the program for tonight done. Why? Because I could look on my phone and look in Dropbox and I saw that she saved it in there. It's as simple as that. It's a cloud-based thing that we can all put our files into. So all of that research, as you're pulling it in, and don't worry about it being too much or you edit it or whatever. One of the things I know from writing books is if I find a resource and if I think it's something important, even if it's that second, I'm going to save it in that Dropbox. Why? Because the odds of being able to find it again, and it's just, that includes, you know, you can save it as a link, but sometimes those links aren't always there. A lot of times what I'll just do is I'll print a screen to a PDF and then I'll shove it in Dropbox. So when I get to actually working and writing my books and writing the things, I have all those resources there together. also when we're doing a bibliography or whatever. And that is what happens with this process of writing these codes. We may not use it all, but what we're doing is it's a central gathering place. Does that help?
Yes.
Because what it is instead of when you do a save and let it go wherever it goes, you do a save as and put it in a specific place. That's the only thing. It's as simple as that.
So Patty will send you a link to it, and then you just need to download the Dropbox if you don't have it, and then it'll take you right there. Any other questions? We're good? Remember, don't be afraid to ask. I was learning all day with Patty today. Okay, so in there too, part of that Dropbox information will be all the different groups, the members, emails, and cell phone numbers.
Okay.
And then, okay, so just a reminder for our timeline. We are on a pretty tight timeline for the July 15th or the 14th meeting. I keep wanting to say the 15th for some reason. I don't know why. Oh, I think it's because that's my oldest granddaughter's birthday. So for the 14th. So we want to pretty much have this, our initial submission ideas and possible coalition partners by the 7th, right, Patty? So we can present.
It's your committee, girlfriend.
Okay, well, that's my thought, is that, you know, by the 7th, when we meet on the 7th, that pretty much have a lot of it submitted. So when we bring it before everybody on that July 14th DCC meeting, we'll have a good portion of that. I mean, it's not going to be all completely done, but just as much as we can get in by the 7th. And if you have anything else to add in after that, add it in. All right. Okay, so the next DCC meeting is Sunday, July 14th at 7 p.m. And you're going to send out a link to that, right, Patty?
That goes out the same way it always does in an invite.
Yeah. Okay. And so, again, here's our group. Here's all of our members. And even I'm going to keep saying it, even though it says oral cancer evaluation, it is a head and neck oropharyngeal cancer evaluation. So think skin cancer, thyroid, all of that encompasses. That's what we evaluate for. And you guys know that. I'm preaching to the choir, but other people are going to listen, and I know they're going to know it too, but just so we are always thinking outside of that box past oral, that anterior portion of the mouth. So our next meeting is going to be next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central. Sorry for the typo. I put 6 Central in my email. So our next meeting is on the 30th, next Sunday, and then on July 7th too. So these meetings will be recorded. So if you know, it's summer, we're all busy. If you happen to miss one, I'm going to send it to Patty in a link, and she's going to put it up into the website. You will go to insider content, and then you'll be able to find, it'll be labeled our oral cancer meeting, and you'll be able to find it there, and you can watch it.
Okay.
Okay. And it will be there tomorrow. Woo! Okay, again, next meeting, June 30th, in a week, 7 Central. I have to keep saying that for myself. 7 Central. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions. And Patty, you're awesome. I just can't thank you enough for everything. Thank you for always being willing and patient. Okay, so if you need to get a hold of me, you can text me or you can email me, or I prefer not for Facebook instant messaging. But if that's the only way you can, that's fine. But I prefer text or email. Is everybody okay with text and email?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. Okay, we are charting your future, our future, the future of dentistry. Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, for your expertise, for sharing your passion. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Anything
everybody.
you want to add, Patty?
Nope, just thanks so much. Let's give Susan an ovation. Good job, Susan. Thank you for being a leader.
Thank you.
This group's going to rock it. We really are. It's exciting times, and especially because this one's been brought up before, we're going to really rock it because we know the statistics haven't gotten better, and we got to make a change somewhere. So thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.